This is the METS POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the New York Mets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Despite a couple of rain delays and an overall quiet day for the Mets offense, they were still able to get back into the win column, a shutout of the Washington Nationals by a final score of 2-0 to push the Mets to 19-8 through their first 27 games this season. Welcome into the Mets Postcast here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel and in the Locked On Mets podcast feed. I'm your Mets Postcast host, Chris Schubert, here with you after each and every Mets game throughout the course of the season. And after a tough one last night, the Mets rebounded and got back into the win column. I will say through the first two games of this series, I wonder if any of you feel the same way that I do. Just some weird vibes from this series. Umpires last night, weird miscues last night. We had a weird base running blunder at the start of this game. The rain delays. The umpires weren't necessarily great today. Just a weird vibe for this four-game series. We're only 50% of the way there, but it was a weird vibe. But this one, the Mets came out on top to get back into the win column. And as we said yesterday, start a brand new winning streak. We hope that that's what they were able to do, and that is exactly what they did. We will start with what you'll be talking about. It is the top story from this game, and it has to do with the guy that took the bump today for the New York Mets.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Klay Holmes is what we will be talking about today, and these rain delays obviously played a major role in what the Mets were able to do today with Klay Holmes, or in better words, what they weren't able to do with Klay Holmes today. A rain delay to start the game, pushing the start back by about 20 minutes or so. And then in the bottom of the first, rain delay that ended up totaling, I believe, 46 minutes before Klay Holmes was able to come back out and finish off that first inning. So just a stop and start nature to this game, and starting pitchers, creatures of habit, to have the start of the game delayed. So your ramp up, your warm up is kind of thrown off a little bit. And then you're out there, you're trying to get into the flow, trying to get those first inning butterflies, those first inning jitters out of the way. Boom, we'll slap you with another 46-minute rain delay. And when Holmes came back, it didn't look great. Broadcast definitely pointed it out that he seemed frustrated. He seemed annoyed with something. Even after the first inning, he went directly into the clubhouse to do something. It just didn't feel like it was going to be a nice, free and easy day for Klay Holmes. But boy, were we wrong, because I'll say it, and statistically, I don't know if we could back this up. You could look at the 10 strikeout start against Miami. You could look at the 6 innings that he gave the Mets for 1 run worth of baseball his last time out against the Cardinals. But I'll go on record and say that was Klay Holmes' best start of the season. When you consider the stop and start with the rain delays, when you consider just that he never found himself into that high leverage, high pressure trouble. Wasn't walking the tightrope, didn't walk a bunch of guys and then have to get out of trouble and run up his pitch count. He played to his strengths. And against a team that is a heavy ground ball team, Klay Holmes did exactly that. 10 ground balls in this game. Bread and butter stuff, man. You just go out there, free and easy, throw all your best stuff. A team that struggles with anything other than a fastball, and they hit the ball on the ground. Ground ball pitcher out there. I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to try to blow stuff past these guys. I'm not going to try to go get 10, 12, 14 strikeouts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I do best, and that is pitch to contact, pitch to ground balls, and let this team play into the way that I command the mound out there. That is exactly what Klay Holmes did, to the tune of 5 shutout innings. And again, clean. He did allow the 4 hits, so it wasn't like there was zero trouble, but no walks, none of the self-inflicted stuff where you walk a guy, you hit a guy that extends an inning. It was just nice, free, and easy, and that's why I have no problem calling it the best start that we saw from Klay Holmes this season, because it was mostly trouble-free, played to his strengths. The fact that he was able to work around the multiple rain delays in this game, man, when we signed Klay Holmes and thought about what this was going to look like in the spring and saw how good he was in the spring, I don't know if any of us could imagine a start to the season that Clay Holmes has had. I just don't know if we could envision this project, this galaxy brain idea of taking the Yankees closer and making him a starter. I don't know if we thought it was going to go this well, but it has been absolutely excellent. He has thrived in this role. He is just, again, not trying to reinvent the wheel. He's added a couple pitches. He added that kick change, but he's just bread and butter. I'm going to make you hit the ball on the ground. I'm going to trust the guys behind me. And he rode that to 5 scoreless innings today. And again, if not for the hour plus in total rain delays in this game, I think he would have gone back out there. Was only at 70 pitches through those 5 innings. I think the Mets, especially with how many games they've been playing in a row, I think they would have been wise to ask for a 6th inning if for no rain delays with him only at 70 pitches. But rain delays, they probably didn't want to press it, didn't want to risk it, didn't want to roll the dice too much, and they just got the 5, and then the bullpen did a great job in relief. We'll talk about them here in just a little bit. Shout out to Francisco Alvarez. First home run of the season in his 2nd game with the team. How about a opposite field, driving the ball the other way, 2-run home run? It was the only offense the Mets got. It's the only offense the Mets needed. And I know I want to heap praise on Francisco Lindor, but let's give credit to Jesse Winker for a 2-out single that sets that up. Alvarez doesn't get that opportunity to drive the ball the other way for the 2-run home run, his first home run of the season, if not for the great at-bat prior with 2 outs by Winker to get on base to set up that opportunity. So just some good situational hitting there from Winker that sets up Francisco Alvarez, sneaking one inside the foul pole. I don't know if he called banking it off of the wall there in the Nationals bullpen, but counts anyway. Counts for 2 runs. In his 5th at-bat of the season, he goes the other way. Just an awesome job from Francisco Alvarez. Really cool to see him get off to a nice start when it comes to the power. I think we forget that he's only 23 years old. I know I do. I have to remind myself that he is still very young. And when the broadcast brings it up, I'm like, oh yeah, he's not even 25 yet. And he's been up here and he's working at it at the big league level. And really good to see him get off to a good start and have that signature moment early in his 2025 season. It was a different look for the Mets today, up the middle defensively. We'll touch on that. We'll talk about the great job that the Mets bullpen did today and a whole lot more here on the other side of the break. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Well, you can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with the Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. You can just grab your paired controller, you subscribe, or you sign into Xbox Game Pass Unlimited with EA Play included, and you are ready to play. Hundreds of premium titles. You want to get in on the College Football 25, EA Sports College Football 25? You can do that. You want to dive into Call of Duty Black Ops 6? We've got that for you. Avowed as well. Easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. You can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. If you already have one, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take you or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Unlimited subscription and a compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including the Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, the Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and the Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Back here on the Mets postcast, on the Locked On Mets podcast feed, and on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel. Appreciate you joining us after the Mets pick up a win 2-0 over the Washington Nationals. Another shutout for them as they start themselves a brand new, at least we hope, a brand new winning streak. The Mets had a different configuration today in their lineup. It only took 2 games, but we got our first look at Luis Angel Acuna at second base with Jeff McNeil in the game at center field. And this is, I think, what you're going to see a lot of the time when Carlos Mendoza wants to get both of these guys into the lineup. You have a guy on the mound who's a ground ball heavy pitcher. Coming into this game so far this season, Clay Holmes, 50.8% ground ball rate this season. And that's before all the ground balls that he got today. So if there's ever a time, listen, Jeff McNeil is a versatile player. He's played in the corner outfield. He's played a little bit of center field. He can move around on the infield. but nobody is going to confuse him with a defensive Swiss Army knife where you can move him around and he's excellent at all of these spots. Carlos Mendoza has to really pick and choose when he does this, because you are sacrificing something when you want to sit down Tyrone Taylor. You want to get Acuna in the lineup for what he has provided so far this season, but you also want to keep Jeff in there. There is a defensive risk you are taking. You are taking a downgrade defensively. The way you mitigate that risk, you put these guys in this configuration when you have a ground ball heavy pitcher. And so I looked at the numbers during the game because we all know Holmes is a ground ball pitcher, but so far this season, David Peterson, 55% ground ball rate, Canning 53%. And as I mentioned, coming into today, Holmes at around 51%, 50.8. So those would be the three starters. If you're looking to kind of think ahead as to when we might see this more often, those would be the three guys that rely primarily on the ground ball as their way to get outs. And that might be, I don't know if it's going to happen every day or every time these three guys are out there. I don't expect that. But if you are looking to try to predict when we'll see more of Acuna at second base and the defense and the speed and what he provides and trying to get his bat into the lineup and keeping McNeil in there but putting him in center, I think our clue is going to be Peterson, Canning, Holmes, and their high ground ball rates. It's just playing to the strengths of what Acuna can do defensively. Turned a nice double play in this game with Lindor and Alonso. And again, not a ton of fly balls, so you lower the chances that Jeff McNeil has to try to make a play that maybe he's not accustomed to making. So our first look at it, 2 games in, and I like that Carlos did that. And I know in the postcast last night, there was a lot of Jeff McNeil hate that I just didn't really get. I know that potentially Acuna gets to that ball in the 9th. Not so sure. That's a tough play for anybody to make. But I like that in the second game, Carlos decided to switch it up and very quickly get this new look out there so we can see what it looked like. It was another great performance for the Mets bullpen. It was Danny Young coming in, facing the lefties of the Nats. He worked, got a leadoff hit and then worked around that with 3 consecutive strikeouts. Hey, boy, it was really nice to have Reed Garrett to be able to go for another inning tonight instead of burning him for 2 innings last night. I remember we talked about that yesterday. I know he gave up 2 hits, but no damage on 16 pitches. If you burned him for 2 innings last night, was not available to help you bridge the gap. And then they asked A.J. Minter to be the setup man in the 8th. And unfortunately, he leaves this game with what was somebody in the chat. Who was it in the chat that told me this? It was Jonathan who said that it was left tricep tightness. Now, Jonathan, I'm taking your word for this because I am not doing the thing where I check social media while we are on the air. I will check now to see if I can do this. And this is always some great podcasting when you can try to search something up on the fly. But I will take your word on it that it was left tricep tightness for the injury. And I'm seeing a video here from Carlos Mendoza that says he's going for an MRI tomorrow and that the injury is going to most likely land him on the injured list. So whatever it is, it doesn't sound good for Minter. And usually when a pitcher grimaces like that and immediately is kind of like nodding or shaking their head in some way, that's kind of the signal that they know something's up, that they know something's off. And so that was tough to see. But Max Kranick, credit to him, coming in this spot, took a little bit extra time to warm up here today, and it paid dividends. He was able to get those final 2 outs there in the 8th inning. And then Edwin Diaz, I know he made us nervous with a walk and maybe some counts that were a little scary, but you know what? 3 strikeouts from Edwin Diaz to pick up his 7th save of the season. And I know it has been somewhat of an adventure for Edwin this season, 7 for 7 on save opportunities. Sometimes the numbers don't lie. I know he still has a 4.5 ERA. I know he gave up that home run the other night against Philadelphia. Trust me, we all watch these games together. We all come and hang out here afterwards to talk about it. We've discussed Edwin Diaz, being concerned about Edwin Diaz, being concerned about what happened on Monday against Philadelphia. I would just say this is all part of the Edwin Diaz experience. And at some point, he's going to start to lock in and he'll rattle off a bunch. But at the end of the day, when you look at the stats, 7 for 7 on save opportunities, isn't that what you want your closer to do? Lock it down in the 9th inning, holding to a 3-run lead. And so far, Edwin Diaz has done exactly that. And so the Mets will have to do some bullpen maneuvering. If A.J. Minter goes on the injured list, he is one of their high leverage relievers, not just because he's a lefty, but being a guy that's pitched in the 8th, has gotten save opportunities, super helpful to have multiple guys that Carlos Mendoza can turn to. I wonder if Dedel Nunez is going to be the move. I know, again, lefty for a righty, but he's been crushing it down there in AAA, coming back from the injury that he had last year. And so I wonder if this is the pathway for him to come up and join this team. And he was awesome last year. So it would be really, I would love it under different circumstances, but it would be nice to see Nunez back in this lineup. It was a tough day overall for the Mets. They had 8 hits as an offense, But, Lindor 3 for 4, including a bunt. He's been trying to bunt all series long. He finally got one down. Pete Alonso 1 for 3. Soto is struggling, 0 for 4, hitting 235 on the season. We can discuss that probably. It is something to definitely keep an eye on. He is certainly fighting it right now. It's not actively hurting the Mets. And so you can kind of let him work through whatever it is that's bothering him or whatever he's struggling with here at the beginning of the season. But it is something to monitor. It is something to monitor here moving forward. But the New York Mets bounce back with a pretty nice victory here today. The rain delay weirdness, Clay Holmes was awesome. And then Francisco Alvarez with the opposite field home run, and the bullpen was excellent once again. We'll give out the Player of the Game award. I mean, I think you know who it's going to.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
I mean, I could give it to Clay Holmes, but like in his second game, his fifth at bat, he hits the home run that gives the Mets the victory. Yeah, we're going to give, for the first time this season, the Player of the Game award to Francisco Alvarez for the home run. Now, real quick, this umpire crew, man, not great. The triple play yesterday, today, 3 times the Nats challenged a play, and they were wrong all 3 times, and it was clearly wrong. It wasn't like the Mets didn't catch a break, right, and the call went against them. Very clearly, in the moment, wrong. Just not the right call, and most of them weren't particularly close. So just a bad couple of days for this umpire crew. Like, just a really, really bad couple of days. The zone was interesting. It would shrink, then it would expand. Stuff up in the zone was getting called a strike. Alvarez, I thought, did a nice job framing a pitch that Edwin Diaz had there in the 9th, a couple of them that they didn't get. Just a weird day for a crew, a weird weekend so far for this crew. And yesterday, the Mets were on the wrong end of it with that triple play that, according to Carlos Mendoza before the game, still has not gotten word from Major League Baseball. You would think that there would be an apology for the New York Mets for getting that wrong, because it was very clearly wrong. But whatever. The Mets pick up a victory today. We're not going to dwell too much on the past. They moved to 19-8 here on the season. And again, only one time this season has this team lost back-to-back games. And so I didn't think they were going to do that again today. They've shown the resiliency all year long. They will go for the series win tomorrow, as they will send Tyler McGill to the mound, and they will face Mitchell Parker for the Nats. So the Mets pick up a victory 2-0 over the Washington Nationals, behind easily, I think, Clay Holmes' best start of the season, considering the circumstances. Absolutely dominated, flustered the Washington Nationals lineup for 5 innings. The bullpen, despite the little detour last night, continued to do what they have done all season, throw up zeros and lock down leads late. And the Mets do just enough offensively to pick up a win, but it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be a W in the W column. And so far, the Mets have done a lot of that with their 19-8 record to start the season. We are back again tomorrow to break down everything from the Mets as they try to go for the series win against the Washington Nationals. And it is Tyler McGill Day for all of us. Make sure you're back here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel and in the Locked On Mets podcast feed after these Mets games complete. You can join us. You can hang out in the chat and share your thoughts on the game as well. Appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate everybody enjoying a victory edition of the Mets postcast. And we will be back tomorrow to break down Tyler McGill and the New York Mets going for the series win. Have a good one, everybody.